All right, welcome. I'm Nate Amidon. I'm a C-17 pilot and lieutenant colonel in the Air Force Reserves. Also CEO of an Agile Consulting firm. So I've got both feet, a foot in each one of these camps. We're talking about transitioning out of the military and what the software development world looks like. We've also got Jared Grove with us today. So, hey, Jared,
also,
you want to?
former pilot, just like Nate. Spent time in the Air Force, and then about 8 years ago, broke into technology, and now I currently help a bunch of companies in the civilian sector, streamline their agile practices and better deliver software. So excited to talk about this stuff, considering I was just here 8 years ago, trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, and we're putting this series together to really help veterans transition into Agile. And this is a question we get like all the time. Like, what Agile cert should we get? What are they about? So we're going to spend a few minutes here going through it, and hopefully you'll get something out of it.
Yeah, excited.
Yeah. So let's just kick this off for a second. Like, what is an Agile cert? Maybe people probably understand this, but it's worth going over. And basically all it is, it's a credential in the industry that demonstrates you know something. That's all it is. Okay, so it's like, hey, I have this certification. I've been to a course. I understand the basics. And then the real question is, like, are they worth getting? Are certifications worthwhile at all? Should you even look at them?
Yeah, and I think I get asked that question, whether it's from our new consultants or transitioning vets, of is it worth it? And like everything, we always answer, it depends. And I think it is worth it to a point.
Yeah.
My always question is a cert going to get you a job? Like, if you get this cert, and is everyone going to be knocking down the door to bring you in? Probably not.
Right.
But it's not going to like close that door. And so I think there's definitely some value on that. So what's kind of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, when I got out, I just was like trying to get as many certifications as possible.
Yeah.
And it helps because every time you go to one of these courses, you learn a little bit more than you knew before. You can speak the language a little better. And it's going to help you be able to better explain your military experience in the type of jobs that you're looking for. So I always tell people,
when you talk about that fringe benefit of speak the language, like, that's huge. I mean, especially if transitioning out there, like, I knew the military world. I didn't know software development. And sure, read some books and that type of stuff. But to really go into those certifications early in my technology career and kind of start to get why people said certain phrases, or we ran certain ceremonies, or why we did certain processes, it just increased like my, exponentially me learning how to be better at software development.
Yeah. And one of the things we say all the time is like, what we did in the military, it's pretty similar to what these teams are doing in software development. Like, there's a lot of parallels between the military and technology. There's other videos where we talk about that. But I think if you don't understand the vernacular, if you can't actually explain how it relates, then you're going to be struggling when you get into a job interview. So these things are actually valuable. I think they're worth your time, but temper your expectations, right? They're not going to get you a job. No one's going to say, "Oh, you're certified, let me hire you." Like, that doesn't happen.
But there's definitely, early on, and you're looking at that job rec, and you look at all the things, and it says, hey, I want 7 years experience in this, or I want, B2B experience, or just all these things that, of course, you may not have had in the military. It's nice to be able to finally say yes when there's a desired quality and it's that certification. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
there's definitely some wins you can get from this.
Yeah. So I think that the takeaway here is it's worth it, but it's not a silver bullet. It's going to get you a job.
Yeah.
Right. Now, there's also just like a sea of types of certifications out there. And this becomes a real issue because a lot of these organizations will come out and they'll just create their own certification. And some of them are more valuable than others. And, occasionally I'll be like, well, I got this certification, and I don't even know what that is. And so knowing which ones to go after if you're going to do them, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think even as you look at this list and stuff that you're going to walk through here, some have different value, different parts of your career, or if you have different experience levels. And so I'm excited to kind of talk about it. So CSM, what's that one?
Yeah.
You got that number one.
Right. So Certified Scrum Master, and I have this as the first one because a lot of people will be getting out of the military. They don't have technical backgrounds, right? So Like if you don't have any technical background and you get like a technical certification, like that's not going to be that much. There's not going to be a ton of help. But all of us have done Scrum Master type stuff in the military. And so getting a certified Scrum Master, I think, gives you a good overview of how software development teams operate.
I also think just love stats. So the other reason why CSM, probably the top one that we have on here, is they say like if you're interested in technology, about 80% of the companies, use Agile. And of those Agile, companies, about 86% use Scrum. Mm-hmm. So being certified in the oil that makes Scrum work, as a certified Scrum Master, yep. There's definitely value in that because a lot of companies are probably using that framework to deliver software.
Right. So Agile Alliance does both of these, the Certified Scrum Master, and then the next one we'll talk about. But the Certified Scrum Master really is the processes around how teams operate. It really gets you a deep understanding of Scrum, what the Scrum Master position does, and a good overview of how like a Scrum sprint works. So I think that's a good one to get. It's a 2-day course. It's not crazy expensive.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
Yep, and then the Certified Product Owner is the next one we have. And this one is essentially, it's similar, but it's focused solely on the product owner position. And so the product owner position, again, we go into deeper in other videos on what they actually do, but they're the ones writing the requirements for the team. All right, and so I think that having that skill set is something, especially if you're a junior officer or a senior NCO, like these are the types of things that we would do all the time, right? Determine what we're doing, figure out the order in which it's going to go, make priority decisions.
I also think just in general is if you've been in the technology sector for a little bit and you're kind of figuring out where you want to go, there's lots of growth in the product land. Mm-hmm. I know every company that you and I have ever worked at or helped with, normally the first lever that they try to pull if they're trying to either get a milestone quicker or catch back up or deliver a product out to market, they tend to go, hey, how do we get more product people? Right. That's kind of their solution. And so taking that next step, if you already have a CSM and trying to be better at, getting yourself ready to take over a product owner position, I think there's a ton of value in that because I think companies really do look and value this type of skill set in people.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when we bring on new consultants that are newly transitioned out of the military, these are the two that we want them to get, right? These are the two we're going to pay for to say, hey, let's get you certified in these two things. All right, so after that, there's PMI, which is the Project Management Institute, and they also do like the PMP, which we'll talk about in a second. But they also have their own Agile Certified Practitioner cert. Okay, and I think there's some value in this certification. All right, this one's a little harder to get. There's a little more rigor around it, but it is a very it does give you the basics. It gives you the same level of knowledge, and it's also from PMI, which is a pretty reputable organization.
Yeah, and I think if I already had a CSM and I'm wanting to, like you said, it's a little bit more rigorous of a training. I probably would get a CSM first, and then if I found a lot of interest in that, and that's kind of where I wanted to go in my career, I probably would next to go, how do I move into the PMI ACP?
Right.
If it was me.
Yeah, and a lot of organizations are transitioning still from a project management world into an Agile world, so the people that are hiring you might be very familiar with the PMI and the PMPs. All right.
Yep.
The other two we'll touch on briefly because they come up all the time. All right. There's a whole set of certifications around the Scaled Agile framework. It's called SAFE. Right? They just put an E at the end to make it sound safe, I guess. All right. That's why they do it. And so you can get inside of the Scaled Agile framework or the SAFE certifications. There's probably 6 or 7 additional certs. All right, and what the Scaled Agile framework is a framework that organizations will adopt, and they'll say, hey, our entire organization is going to operate under this software development framework, and so they want to get everybody trained, and so you may see like, hey, we need someone that has a safe cert or a safe product owner or a safe release train engineer. There's a whole world you could understand here. But I would say these are interesting. If you can get them, they don't hurt. But at the same time, like it's going to be a very like role opportunity specific certification.
Yeah, I mean, when I got a safe one, it was because I was with a client that used Skilled Agile, and ultimately they paid for it, and so I was happy to do that training.
Right.
Why not get another cert, especially if it helped me better do my job for them, and then also made me, a little bit more shiny in the future for, future opportunities if people were using safe. So.
Yeah, and I mean, both of us have safe certs, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have. All right, the final one I'll talk about here is really the ITIL. All right, it's an Information Technology Infrastructure Library. And so this certification I haven't gone through, full honesty, and I don't necessarily recommend it unless you're in a really specific niche thing. Okay, and really the ITIL is going to be more of what we would talk about like IT service management. Okay, and so these are the systems that really are like your ticketing, your call center, like those types of things. But it's out there, and it doesn't hurt to get.
Yeah, and ultimately that could be, some of those places and opportunities and roles that if you don't have a bunch of technology experience because they're transitioning, those service ticket, the operational, those call centers, those may be opportunities to get into, the company of your dreams at that level. Because they may want someone with 10 years of product owner experience, but you may be able to get in there at one of those operation level type roles and then build up your experience while you're in that company. So
yeah, so I don't think it hurts. All right, and depending on the opportunity, just know that it's out there and it's a potential cert.
Yeah.
All right, and so the ones that we just talked about are very agile software development process specific. Okay, but one thing we always we don't operate software in a vacuum. All right. There's a lot of other different parts of the organization that integrate with software development organizations. And so there's a couple other certs out there that I think are valuable to look at. All right. And the first one is the PMP, the Project Management Professional. Now, a lot of veterans, when they come out, it's like the first thing they go after. Just want to get a PMP.
That was me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this was the first cert I got as well. And it's really... The PMP is less about like how software development teams work in an agile way and more about how the organization runs projects. So I think it's worth getting, right? I mean, because a lot of organizations are still doing project-based work. And so having that in your, can be helpful. And there's a lot of, the PMI in general is a great organization for networking and actually, and actually finding opportunities.
Also, with the PMP thing is, anyone who has it knows that it's some work. Right. There's a lot of studying. There's some practicals that you have to do. There's a time test that is very monitored, not open book.
Right.
That is probably one of the harder tests I've ever taken. So when someone does have like a PMP, you know that they were committed to learning about project management.
Right.
And I think you have the ability, that certification, there is a little bit of that if you have that on there. They go, wow, like they put in the time because it's not just a weekend cert.
Right.
It is a couple months cert, and I think everyone knows that, especially if it is one of those highly desired requirements that they have on a job.
Yep. Yeah, and so again, it's one of those things that help, but it just be aware that that's not specific to like Agile, Scrum. It's very much a different like waterfall project management. If you're doing construction, a PMP is helpful. All right.
I will say though, since when you and I took it, which was many years ago, PMI realized that they're probably losing some market share to the Agile certs, and they actually, and also like other companies, were starting to shift away from the waterfall. They are now introducing a lot of, there's a subset of the PMP now that deals with Agile. Mm-hmm. But I still say even that subset is kind of on the surface level. Really wouldn't go as deep as like a CSM or a CSPL.
Right. But I mean, I guess, not to spend too much time on this, but like there has also been benefits for me having the PMP working in Agile because there's we understanding how like a project management office is going to operate and think, it can really help us integrate better. So again, I think it's valuable to get. The other one that I'm a fan of is the Lean Six Sigma stuff. All right. And, I got my certification in the Air Force when I was there. It was called Air Force Smart Ops for the 21st Century, which is pretty cool. AFSO 21. Yeah. And anyway, it got me a green belt, and so there's this whole world out there of Lean. But I always like to say, like, hey, Agile was built on the house of Lean. These principles, we use process flows, story maps, ideal states all the time. And so I really like this one. I really think it's worth getting because it opens up it makes you think about how to best streamline organizations. Yeah.
I think it's a good one. We've brought in people who are Lean Six Sigma black belts to talk about and how to, troubleshoot a root cause analysis for why software development that was actually done in Agile was not done well. And so it is definitely something that is used in technology and software development.
Yeah. So know that these certs are out there. And so really then the question is, okay, these are the certs that, maybe worth targeting initially. Where do you find out how to get these? Because there's so many options, so many companies, there's so much noise out there. So I always like to say, like, do a lot of research, right? Yeah. Google, ChatGPT, they're your friends here. Find as many options as possible, and then just honestly, I don't spend a ton of money on certifications.
No.
Right.
Yeah, I think it goes back into the value of it. I think we harped on in the beginning is it's not going to get you a job. It won't close it, and so figuring out how to not close doors the cheapest possible way.
Yeah.
100% I see not worth your GI Bill. Yeah, I would not. I would, if I'm going to use my GI Bill, I would have it for, a data scientist, degree or something like that.
Right.
Or, something that maybe once I get in there and I figure out I'm interested, that's what I would do. But I wouldn't spend it on these certs because, frankly, there's just a lot of options to be able to get them at a decent price and not have to utilize those ones.
And the range of cost on these certifications is pretty wild, right? I mean, I've seen certs you can get for $200 and then the same certification for $1,200, right? I mean, and so spend your time researching. I'm suspect of companies that are asking to use your GI Bill to fund a PMP or a CSM or a Lean Six Sigma cert. I don't think that's the best option. But hey, do whatever you want, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not here to give financial advice.
That's how you want to spend it. That's totally fine. But yeah, I mean, you got veteran resources already listed down there.
Right.
The Syracuse University, I think if anyone's transitioning right now, I hope they've learned about this as one of the first things. And it's where I got my PMP. And great organization, great mission of helping vets, better transition into there. And so, I mean, if I had to put like 100% stamp on like what recommend that one all the time for your PMPs, your Lean Six Sigmas, I think it's a good organization, and it was 100% free.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what Syracuse is doing. There's other ones out there. Vets to PM, our Heroes has some programs that you can do on your skill bridge. And then I do want to give a shout out to Platinum Edge. They're a company that provides Agile certifications, and they have a great veteran program. So we'll drop a link to their website. We usually go through them just because the quality's high and the price is reasonable. Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to wrap this up because we get this question all the time. Okay. And so a couple of things I think are important here to hone in on, right? Which is, look, the certifications help. They're worth it.
Yes.
They're worth getting, but they're not going to get you a job. Experience is better. Okay. So chase experience, right? That's one of the things we say all the time. Do your research, find out what you're really interested in. You may learn more about Agile or Scrum and be like, I don't want anything to do with that. Then maybe the CSM isn't the right path. Go the PMP, Lean Six Sigma route. All right. And then, but ultimately when you transition out, like, you just never really want to stop learning. And this is something that we talk about in our company all the time, which is like, we're always going after the next thing. We're always getting certifications. There's a ton of free stuff out there, right? Like on Pendo and those other things. So, and so I think that the attitude of constantly trying to get certs, trying to get knowledge, is going to pay off for you in the long run.
Yeah, and I think also even when you do get those certs and say you're at a company, there's going to be some great ideas that you learn in those classes.
Mm-hmm.
Try to implement them, and then you'll kind of figure out where in your environment or your type of leadership style, like where it best fits. And then you can start to become the expert, not just because you have a CSM, but because you started to implement some of these processes that you've learned in the certification. So don't just get the cert and stop it. Like, become a nerd on that stuff is always what I recommend. And then it's fun because I will tell you, after doing this for 8 years, the reason why I continue to do this and I love working with teams is it's fun to deliver software. And it's fun when it's hard and you figure out how to do it faster and easier and where everyone's happier. And so, like, these certs help you do that. And so, become a nerd on it, try to get better at it, and bring that, the energy to your team, because it's infectious and they'll start to be excited to learn too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, we've done a lot of this stuff. When you go through certifications, you're going to not be surprised by the stuff that they're telling you. I mean, I remember going through the CSM and essentially feeling like, okay, this is what we do all the time. Like, I don't understand why it's a thing it's separately named. So just understand your experience is valuable in the military. And the more certifications you get, the better you're going to be able to translate that experience in an interview, on your resume. And then as you get more and more experience, you'll learn more and more about, hey, man, you're good. You're going to be good at this. You will succeed. So that's really what we had. And so we'll drop a link to our company website, and so feel free to reach out to us if you have questions or you want to talk through this anymore. But good luck out there, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.